Hey everyone, welcome to Holy Crap, the vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect when some people on Facebook that I knew back from high school were posting stuff on Facebook that was factually wrong. And that's the way that they like to use Facebook. And they got upset when I used Facebook the way that I wanted to, which was to correct them. Part of this is also to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm known as Shujin Tribble all over the internet. You can find me under that name pretty much everywhere. Not under Grindr. Shut up. I was born to a Roman Catholic family in Brooklyn, New York, raised on Long Island. I currently reside outside of Buffalo, New York, and I'm an unabashed atheist. There have been a lot of things that have been happening over the last week, so I'm going to touch on a couple of them tonight and give them the time that they deserve. Very quickly, the co-host panel tonight, starting off over in France, in Paris. Good morning, Joseph.
Yeah, good morning. Me first today. Hello. Yeah, my name's Joseph. I'm from London, Ontario, Canada, originally. And I moved here to Paris in 1989. And I'm doing everything I can to promote critical thought and independent value judgments. And, well, basically thinking for yourself.
And of course, with everything having happened this particular couple of days, we just wanted to make sure that you put it out there. You did announce over on Facebook that you're doing okay after everything. Everything's cool for you right now, yay?
Actually, Facebook did it for me, but yeah.
Wait, Facebook did it for you?
How
does that work?
Well, it's actually a cool feature because I just got an alert saying tell everyone you're safe, and it's like an option that pops up.
Yeah, I saw it.
Big green button on it. Yeah, well, actually, they just earned a lot of points with me because of that. That's really useful.
I didn't realize Facebook was actually useful like that.
Yeah, neither did I.
although I have to say he's very proactive. He was actually... I opened the message window to say something, and he was already typing in it. So...
So
there you go.
You know, Joe knows we worry about him, so.
Yeah, that thing was going mad as soon as it came up. I mean, I suddenly, just as soon as I clicked I'm okay, you know, I just got loads of responses, and me, I'm somebody, I think I have to respond to everything. So.
I'm busy, in other words, is what you're saying.
There went the rest of his night.
Yeah, practically, yeah.
Okay, so... Of course, on behalf of the rest of the panel, you know, glad that you're okay. I was very proud to be able to relay that through the Facebook group. So, just glad that you're. Yeah, after I saw that it popped up, I just said, okay, we need to go ahead and just put that out there so that everybody knows, and that's about it. We've got a response on that. We're going to come to that in a couple of moments. Anyway, rounding out the rest of the panel tonight, starting on the top left-hand corner of the map, North America. Good morning. Good evening for you, Dallin.
Yeah, it's still evening for me because, you know, I'm out here on the right coast. Or is it the left coast? Well, either way.
Not even.
The better coast?
Yeah, well, that could be subjective. Anyways, folks, good evening. Online known as Dallin. Born and raised to a Lutheran family. Church was not a very big part of my life. Always encouraged to never stop learning, always ask questions, and above all, keep an open mind. Served me very well, and I was a very live and let live kind of guy until all these village idiots down in the south that I used to laugh at when I was a kid, read fundamentalists, started becoming a rather serious problem. And I realized it was time for me to help people cash their reality checks.
Moving to the right, just north of me over in Ontario, Southern Ontario. Good morning, Heretic Woman.
Good morning. As he says, I'm over here in Ontario, Canada. I started out in a United Church of Canada, which is pretty liberal as far as churches go, but my dumb teenage move, which was I joined a Calvinist sect. Don't recommend it, not one of my better choices. But I've now been an atheist for 26 years, and I, too, used to kind of be live and let live, and as events in the last couple of days have shown, that's one good reason why I don't keep my mouth shut anymore, and I am all over the internet trying to spread reason and annoy crazy people whenever possible.
Moving to the Midwest of the U.S. Good morning, Bridget.
Good morning. I am Bridget Fitch. I was born and raised in the South, raised Church of Christ. My family put the fundamental in fundamentalism. I got better in 2003, and now I'm an activist as far as fighting back against theocracy and patriarchy wherever I find it.
Okay. Moving to... God, sorry. That's something caught in my throat. Good morning on Renault Tech.
Good morning, dude. Drink some hot chocolate. You'll be fine. Just remember to swallow.
Gargle.
I'm Unrenowned Tech. Yeah, gargle gargle first, then swallow. I'm Unrenowned Tech. I'm the comic relief. I was born in a mixed religious background. Half my household was Jewish and the other half was Catholic. As I was growing up, I ended up learning about both sides, experiencing different holidays and traditions. Foods, really good. Food. And I ended up, as I got older, studying other religions, even practiced Christianity for a while. And but at the end of the day, I came to the realization, learning about so many different religions, learning at the thing, observing the world around me, came to the inevitable conclusion that they're all full of crap, and I'm an atheist. And in many ways, I'm also an anti-theist when I see the things that are done that religion enables people to do, the atrocities committed across the world. Not just what happened in Paris, but everywhere.
And moving across the pond over to England, good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Shijin. I'm Chris, based in Preston in the north of England. I've been pretty much a lifelong atheist. I've never really paid religion any mind until through the skeptical movement I started seeing the amount of damage being done around the world, not just by religion but by other beliefs that aren't well supported by evidence.
Okay. So, of course, thank you all for taking the time to be joining us this evening, especially those of you that are watching live. Excuse me. If you would like to chime in at any time, please, by all means, feel free. You can go ahead and tweet us live at Holy Crap TV. You can also join us over on the Google Hangout page and take advantage of the question and answer system. By all means, feel free. If you want to drop something besides a general question, you can go ahead and do that. Just expect after a little while, if it's social, that I'll just get rid of it to clear the way for actual questions. But it's quite all right that way. Before I get started for tonight, there is one quick piece I want to go ahead and put out there. The situation that had transpired in Paris this past week, of course, as we know full well, has been nothing short of an atrocity, and there are some people that have made it worse by claiming all kinds of conspiracy ideals to go along with it. On behalf of the entire panel, even though it is not yet a Power of 10 episode, I'm going to utilize some wonderful thinker's idea on this one, Mr. Penn Jillette, who said, and I quote, "Shut the fuck up." And I do believe that I speak on behalf of the entirety of the panel for this one.
Here.
Said it better myself.
Thank you very kindly. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, there it is, with apologies to Noah Heath and Lucinda from The Scathing Atheist, and god-awful movies, which, oh my god, freaking, you guys are doing really great. And you know what? Tough it out, guys. Your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. I'm actually grabbing my inspiration for the 5-minute freestyle this week, which is, think about the future. And I quoted this one as Lieutenant Eckhardt as being part of the part of the ideal for this one. The first modern Batman movie from 1989 with Michael Keaton, campy as it might have been, one of the early scenes was Jack Napier yelling back at this dirty cop, think about the future. Well, Dallin is actually the person that really started me on this rail down, and this happened during our show last night. And Dallin, for a couple of seconds, I'm going to bring you in on this. We spoke last night very briefly about the Draco engines.
Yes. The new engine from SpaceX that's going to be used to power their new manned Dragon module.
And what was so special about its construction?
What is a Dragon module?
It's a capsule that they're building right now. They're using an unmanned one to do supply runs to the ISS.
Mm-hmm.
But the next plan for SpaceX is to actually revamp it so that it can actually carry people. So it'll be the next sort of manned space capsule. The interesting thing about these new engines is that they are actually 3D printed.
And that's where my inspiration came in. Other than the music. The idea that we have the first V1, if you will, 1.0, of a Star Trek replicator. Overall technology. It's not the same thing, not by a long shot. But it kind of is. We have the ability now of, well, 3D printing has been available since roughly 1984. It was in its absolute infancy at that point. It was beginning to become a thing. And now, starting into the 21st century, it's actually something that you can have as a hobbyist, as a power user. It's something that has crossed under the $1,000 mark, well below it. In some cases, maybe $300. And you can make a lot of stuff with it that, believe it or not, you can't make any other way. The method of fabrication for all this time up until this point had been reductive. As it was said, you take a piece of marble and you chip away everything that doesn't look like an elephant, and you've got an elephant. Or David, or a chariot, or whatever else. But you have to take away. Now we have a situation where you don't do that. You actually put pieces together, which means you can craft things that you could not develop any other way. The reductive method simply wouldn't do it. There's stuff that is otherwise mathematically impossible to generate in a reductive atmosphere. Stuff that's just absolutely insane. But yet, there it is. A little while later, a couple hours later, you get all the pieces. There are people who are utilizing these things for space travel. Industrial, yes, but for space travel. And they're looking to trust human lives to it, 7 at a time. This Dragon capsule, 7 people at a time comfortably, with a huge, expansive touchscreen display. Holy crap! The 21st century is amazing. And what's the best part about this to me? Not that they're going to be utilizing it for space, for rocket science, but that people can utilize these things to manufacture individual pieces for costumes. Why is that crazy to me? Why do I find that amazing? Because in 1984, when I was just getting into high school, nobody heard about this. Not a blink. And now, here I am in my adulthood, and these things have gone from an amazing piece that's crossed over the $1,000 mark where people can actually utilize them, to a hobbyist can use it for fun, for a couple $100 and a little bit of time invested. And it's the same technology that's going to put people into low Earth orbit and possibly further. This is an awesome future. I won't get to see the 22nd century. but goddamn, the 21st is friggin' amazing already.
Like, hurry up and make me a spouse.
Tech. Seriously, they may not be so far away from that.
Yeah.
The other major 3D printing application they're working on is printing organs, like skin and kidneys and stuff for transplant.
Oh yeah, I know. It's pretty cool.
Well, the first one I heard about was they 3D printed. Shujin, you remember this one?
Yep.
They 3D printed a trachea, and then washed it in the recipients. They washed it in stem cells from the recipient to mitigate any rejection.
Yeah. I saw the one where they 3D printed a woman's jaw based on her old X-rays because she had a degenerative disease, genetic disposition, where the entire jaw and all her teeth literally disintegrated, and they were able to 3D print a whole new set of teeth and jaw for her. Granted, she has to eat soft foods, but after just a couple weeks of the surgery, she was talking and eating soft foods again. It's like, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I believe they did the same thing for a turtle.
Like I said, man, 21st century, how cool is this shit, man?
No kidding.
This is just, I love it. I just absolutely love it. So, really quickly, over in the Q&A right now, Katie, good morning, hon. Good to see you. Renee, hello. It's yes, the crap crew is here and ready to believe you. I just don't know how to fit that in without shoehorning it somewhere. By the way, for those of you that didn't already see, yes, I went out and I got my cup. I don't know about the rest of you, but why? Because I was going to make some kind of semen latte thing, but I don't get lattes.
Well, I look at it this way. I could have gone, just got like a regular cup of offense, but in honor of Pastor Manning, I almost said Preston Manning.
I was like, whoa, time warp.
Okay, I blame the other beverage that I have with me tonight, but no, I figured, if I'm going to get offense, I may as well get some demonic offense too,
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And did you claim your name was Merry Christmas when you ordered it?
As a matter of fact, I didn't need to. There was, myself and the little one, we both got the same drink, as a matter of fact, and didn't need to because we were the only ones being served at the moment. Although the next person in line had something that cost $5.06, and why do I remember that very specifically? Because I paid for it with the change that I had left over. Why? Because I wanted to.
Yep.
But that's a whole other thing for later.
I saw a graph. Never mind. It's not.
I'm pretty sure if I'd said my name was Merry Christmas, not to be offensive or anything like that, but given the demographic that was in the store at the time, I would have gotten some really weird looks.
This is Josh Fierstein's latest crap thing to try and force people to write Christmas messages on red cups.
Yeah.
Well, our old vet's name was Merry Christmas. I kid you not.
Or, if you want to be a real dick when they ask you your name, you can just say, my name is a very adorable drawing of a miniature Christmas tree.
I would say my name is Hail Hydra.
There we go.
Or how about Cthulhu?
Cthulhu, there we go. Although I enjoyed the memes going around the one of the black cups where they'd turn the mermaid into Baphomet and it said Hail Satan all over it, or actually my absolute favorite was the one that just said Ezekiel 23:20 on it. You want some Bible, baby?
Wait a minute, what is that one?
That would be, and she lusted after her lovers, whose members were like that of donkeys, and whose emissions were like that of horses.
Now, before we go
I have it memorized.
Yes, you want to go ahead and quote chapter and verse of your book, we can do it too.
Oh, hell yeah.
You do it better.
And we've got pictures.
Yeah.
None of which are going to show up on the show.
I've Googled an illustration for that. There does not seem to be one, and it really made me wish I could draw, because I would have created
Heretic
one.
Woman?
Yeah.
Just
Turn off safe search.
No, Shujin and I have a couple. We could probably get this done for you and actually have it done semi-professionally.
That would be cool, because I would so put that out there.
I just wonder,
can't
Shujin,
draw.
do we know an artist that could probably pull this off without
They
looking
would.
at us weird?
Why don't you have it? Why don't you have it 3D printed?
There we go.
Why is that not in the Brick Bible?
And to answer your question, Chris, what the hell is safe search?
And to answer Dallin's question, I think the more telling question would be, how many could I find that wouldn't even blink twice about this one? I can think of...
Because, I have, Joey Lee Curtis's bedtime Bible stories, and there's some great illustrations in there, but they don't have that one. And I thought somebody must have drawn it, and I Googled it, and I can't find it. So
I wonder if it's in the Brick Bible, the one that was made out of Legos.
I don't know. I don't think so.
They have quite a few sex scenes in that one with Lot and his daughters.
People seem to miss that one, and this is my new mission, is to make sure that everyone is aware of Ezekiel 23:20.
I'm just thinking to myself now, I'm so glad that didn't show up in the Lego movie or any of the Lego video games. Oh, God.
Oh, Shujin, I think I just realized who could probably do it best.
Don't say it. Type it into our group chat. So
I will, because that person might not want to be.
Exactly. So I'll put it past somebody, and we'll see about that. So our overall topic tonight is ceasefire. It was Armistice Day this past week. The 11th hour. The 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. World War I came to its conclusion. One of the things that I remember the most about World War I, and it seems kind of weird to say it that way, is listening to Colonel Sherman T. Potter. As stupid as it might sound. I remember watching MASH, and when Sherman Potter came on the scene and took over for the 407th 7th, he was cavalry. He was old-school cavalry in the Great One. And he remembered it. And he did not want there to be more of what was going on. There was at least one scene that I can very clearly remember where white phosphorus was suddenly being used in bullets. And he broke down because he just yelled, if they can find so many amazing ways to kill the human body and turn it into hamburger, why the hell can't they stop this goddamned war? And we're going to talk about this a little bit, because if there's one thing that I'm pretty sure that we can all agree on, is that war, the difference between war and hell is that some people actually come back from war and wish they weren't. Bridget, I'm going to start with you. It was going to be both you and Joseph, because you've both been active duty. You've been fortunate enough that, to the best of my recollection, you did not see active service, so to speak, correct?
No, I was stateside, so I didn't have to go to Afghanistan or anything like that.
But like my brother, who was in the Air Force from 95, I believe it was, when he graduated the Air Force Academy, you would have gotten several medals and citations because of whatever was going on wherever the forces were at the time.
I did get one for Panama.
And that was an interesting police action, I guess officially.
Mm-hmm.
What was the, if you don't mind my asking, what was the citation described as, to the best of your recollection?
I mean, it was serving during wartime. As far as like our squadron did go down to Panama and participated in some of the airstrikes down there. And I was trained in medical. I didn't have to go, but my ex-husband did have to deal with the C-130s and patch up the bullet holes and things.
And
but as far as the VFW and all that, I am eligible for membership in that. I can't remember what year this was. Was it 88 or 89? I don't remember.
Something
you
like
look
that.
so much younger than that.
Well, thanks. But as far as like the 314th Squadron, they were, very prominent in the operations, and that's who I was with, was the 314th.
Okay. Like I was saying, my brother, who I am very proud of, though I will not name him here. It's easy enough to figure out who it is. But my brother went through the Air Force Academy. He ended up flying A-10s. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the
the
aircraft,
unstoppable tank killers.
for those that are unfamiliar with the A-10, please go ahead and look up images of it. It has been described.
Plane.
It is a gun with wings and two engines strapped on it.
You pull the trigger for the Gatling gun, and the plane flies backwards. That's with the engines on, pushing it forwards.
You actually have to slow down before you pull that trigger, otherwise the sheer force of it will rip the plane in half.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, my brother was fortunate. He was in a badass aircraft, and I do not say that lightly. Some of them were manufactured two towns over from where we grew up on Long Island. It was a Fairchild Republic plant at the time. Several of them, quite a number of them, were built in the 70s. And it was in Farmingdale, New York, if you want to go ahead and look that one up for yourselves. Farmingdale was, it was interesting. We got the chance to see the Islanders skate around there one time, but that's besides the point. The A-10 tank killer, the Warthog, otherwise known as one of the butt-ugliest aircraft known to man, was designed with one purpose only: destroy everything in front of you and bring it back after you were done with it. According to myth, you could fly that thing with half a wing on one side gone, one engine, and your primary hydraulic system blown away, potentially half of the tail as well. You got to sit in a titanium bathtub, and that's the way it was described, so that if anybody took a pot shot at you from underneath, you took the hit and you wouldn't even know that it happened, other than to hear maybe, potentially, ding. So my brother was lucky because he came back time and time again, and he got the opportunity of teaching the people coming through how to fly these things. And he was also fortunate to have a lot of them come back and say, "Your training saved my ass. Thank you." A lot of them don't get that lucky. Joining, by the way, this morning, at this point, finally, we were a little bit worried about you. Joey, thanks for joining us. I'm assuming that you kind of just woke up a little bit ago.
Obviously, he's not wearing his sunglasses.
My apologies. I am currently fighting the flu.
Oh.
Which you can
Maybe you should go back to bed.
Tell. And actually laid down for a short nap, which turned into a much longer sort of nap. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Two pieces on that then. A, it sounds like you're talking off of the webcam microphone, and second, if you're sicked out, don't sweat it, man. You go back to sleep.
Okay, how about now?
Yep, that's your boom head.
Much better.
Okay.
You sound less stuffy now.
I'm good.
Okay, so go ahead and give you a real quick intro here.
Hi, folks. My name's Joe, as if you didn't figure that out already. I was born to an Irish Catholic family in Chicago, Illinois. I spent 8 years in the United States Armed Forces, and I am now living in Pittsburgh as a graphic designer and atheist. And yes, I don't have my sunglasses or filter on today, so you're just going to have to deal with the glare.
Fair enough, not a problem.
Well, we get to see your pretty eyes. So, you know.
Yes, my pretty bloodshot eyes.
Actually, you can't really see it that well.
That's okay. That's just great right there.
That's better. Thank you. We appreciate the effort you put forward. Keep up the good work.
Yep.
Smart ass.
Yeah, you should talk.
I know. I said. Hello, pot. I'm Kettle.
Yep. And real quick, just to round that all out, my brother was fortunate enough to have flown at one point with the Flying Tigers squadron when he was here on the East Coast. At the time, he was concerned that he was going to end up being one of the last because they were talking about dismantling that wing, but that one stayed. And for what it's worth, for the guys who used to fly with Jolly Rogers, thank you guys. That was one wing that I know full well was dismantled, and they used to fly on the Enterprise, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong on that, but anyway. So, real quick, Joe, since you also spent time in the military, you had 8 years. You spent time out in the Dust Bowl, kind of same as my brother did. Whereabouts and I guess probably just whereabouts and such for the time being, I guess.
Well, I did 2 tours in Iraq, in the Basra and the Diyala areas, and I then did a tour in Afghanistan, pretty much all over the eastern side of the country. No Kandahar for me.
Okay. All right, so we've got 2 people that have been directly in the military. Outside of that, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but my grandfather, World War II, Navy, Pacific Supply Fleet.
My grandma, World War II, Army Air Corps.
Yeah, my grandpa, World War II, he was in Pearl Harbor when they got struck. And he was 17 years old at the time.
My dad, World War II, Norwegian Underground Resistance.
No, my granddad was in World War II. He just turned 98. He was with the RAF.
If you ever drop by,
sorry, Joseph.
If you ever drop by and see him, tell him I said thank you.
I had to say, no one in my family has ever been in the military.
Well, you're Canadian. We'll let you go.
Come on, the Canadians actually did a pretty good job in World War II. So despite all the jokes, they did pretty good.
Well aware of that, except for the fact that they put a 6-pounder on the Sherman. They put a 2-pounder on the Sherman. What are you thinking?
Don't know. All I know is that, and I would be very remiss if I did not make mention of it because of everything else. Because I know full well Rithnook, as well as Ark, would have my head if I did not specifically toast off to the guys who handled Vimy Ridge. Good on you guys.
I see you got your Starbucks cup.
He's not the only one.
Look, I've got my seasonal cup too. Mine's black.
I've been inside today. Bite me.
That's okay. My cup is a nice gunmetal with black rubber.
You know, honestly, I think they should just make the cups white and hand out crayons so all the bitchy, whiny, crybaby children can just draw their own shit on there.
That's
got that planned for next year.
That's not a cup, that's an artillery shell, and thank you very much, Tech, for already throwing our rating out the window, because I can guarantee you, this ain't a Power 10 show. It's not. It's gonna be by the time I'm done.
Don't worry about it.
Wait. I didn't drop the F-bomb, did I?
No,
no.
Fusion
but I
broke
did.
the show's cherry earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and with good reason. Don't
Yeah.
worry, you can check back on it afterwards. So we got to try to figure out war.
Oh, can I interject real quick?
I guess so. You guys already
For
know.
anybody who's watching live, just so you know, I was passing through some articles, catching up on some stuff while Sujin was doing his 5-minute freestyle, and Google Hangouts. Anybody who wants to use Google Hangouts to make a call to Paris, France, Google is waiving all charges. So if you have friends or family in Paris, and they have a Hangouts account, or whatever the case might be, give them a call. It's not going to cost you a dime.
See, now I wish I knew more than one person in Paris, so I could actually just call for the hell of it.
Yeah, there's that. For those also who might not already know about it, actually this can kind of come together. I'm also a ham radio operator, even though I'm, as the term goes, tongue-in-cheek, radio inactive currently. There are a number of methods of getting information in and out of emergency areas through the ham radio community. And there's also something called MARS, and it's not what you think. It's the Military Amateur Radio Society, if I remember the acronym correctly. It's an interface between the amateur radio public, stateside and such, and the military, who are also amateur radio operators, ham radio operators, so that they can exchange information, exchange data, and messages.
I will give you a slight tweak on that. It's the Military Auxiliary radio service.
Sorry, thank you.
It's sponsored, but and it is managed, but it's done differently. It's civilian auxiliary.
Okay.
So, but it's licensed. It's essentially licensed amateur radio.
Which amateur radio is itself licensed, but meaning it's done through the military also. Guys that have got dual. I don't want to say dual citizenship with radio licensing, but that's effectively what it is. Anyway.
Oh, look, Google.
I can't do that while I'm doing this at the same time. There's only so many things. I can talk and preview music while I'm DJing, but typing and talking and videoing, and no. Anyway, let's back onto this. War. Most people will agree war is a bad thing, generally speaking. Now, unfortunately, there are times when war is a necessity. There are very, very few times when anybody would claim that, but there are unfortunately times when that happens. Most assuredly, in times of, well, what's the word that I'm looking for? Self-defense. We've seen this on too many occasions where somebody said, you know what, that plot of land looks really appetizing. That takes us back to 1914 and World War I. And that was pretty much where this all starts from. So, 1914 starts up, Europe erupts. No, wait a second. It wasn't Germany by name at the time. It was the Prussian. I'm trying to remember who the hell it was by name. Whatever. What is now currently modern-day Germany. And it all got started ostensibly because somebody got pissed off at somebody else and killed somebody, and then suddenly everything went to pot. And I'm making it really, really, really Reader's Digest version, and I know it.
It was the Archduke Ferdinand, in case anybody...
Yeah, it was Archduke Ferdinand. It was the German Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah, German Reich. So, yeah. Second
okay.
Reich.
So sorry. So war erupts. Europe goes, well, you know what? Screw it. There's no other way of putting it at the moment. Europe basically goes batshit. Everybody piles on everybody else because everybody has a hand in it because somebody's got a
bad game of musical chairs.
Yeah. And the problem of it is, it wasn't just somebody got offed. I mean, if it was any other situation, you know.
Well, no.
I thought you had more. Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to steal your spotlight. It's just the tensions that went on between these various countries that got involved had existed for hundreds of years in precedence of. We're talking massive cultural and societal issues that had, built into this interweaving web of ugly finger pointing, and it was, and I saw somebody had actually done one of those internet memes based on this, but it was essentially a big ugly bar fight.
Yeah.
Because you picked on him. Well, that's my buddy. You can't pick on my buddy. I'm going to come over there and help you out. Hey, that's not fair. There's two of you. There's one of him. Hey, hold on. And it was this big, ugly bar fight for a long time. It was insane. I mean, yeah, Russia declared war, but mobilized for war, way earlier than it actually declared it. So you could argue that, the Russians had fault, and there is no one person to point blame at. I mean, a lot of the blame got piled onto Germany, which is where you ended up with Weimar Republic and the Treaty of Versailles, which sucked.
But the thing of it was, it's exactly what it was. It was a giant bar fight. Everybody got involved. But like I was about to say, it wasn't just that somebody got offed. I mean, as we know full well from popular culture, friggin' mafia did that pretty much all the time, sooner or later. And there's a family thing. I'll talk about that another time.
You Italians love offing people. I've seen your history.
Anyway, but what made it happen more than anything else was a long history. Well, all right, maybe not a long history. Maybe that's a bad way of putting it. That there were economic things that were going crazy. There were cultural things that were going crazy. There were a lot of mitigating things that suddenly everybody piled on because of it. And probably to me, that's the thing that hurts the most. That it's preventable. Shit like this is absolutely preventable. So at any point, guys, feel free to jump in with pieces about this, because what I opened up about with Potter talking about it's so easy, so much better to kill and turn into a hamburger these days, and suddenly, why can't we just end a war? There's a lot of technology that comes out of warfare, unfortunately, and a lot of it is exactly that, turning people into hamburger. Joey, you know full well. Tanks. And going into World War II. Chris, you culturally and in the geographic area that you are, you know full well. During World War II, it was the fledgling rocket program coming, unfortunately, over into London, and the buzz bombs.
Yeah, Jebediah never could steer well.
Yeah, I'm rather glad that was all before my time.
True. But, I mean, there are still places in England, there are still pockmarks in buildings, and they'll very proudly tell you, yep, we survived another one over here, and there's over there, and there's over there. And Joseph is...
There are still people over there who have the old shelters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crap, I forget what. There were two major brands of them.
Anderson.
Yeah.
and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, me neither.
I have a question for Chris.
Yeah.
I know you're not old enough to remember World War II. Are you old enough to remember the IRA bombing Protestants? Or was that before your time?
Yeah, I remember the IRA. I grew up in the 80s over here. Luckily for myself, I was growing up in a very rural area of southwest England, and so it didn't directly impact me, but there was in the news a lot, and I know people that it has affected directly. People that have been in major cities, in areas that have been bombed over here. Fortunately, with the IRA campaign, it was a very different kind of terrorism, and normally they would give the police a limited amount of advance warning to say, there's a bomb in this building. It's going to go off in 10 minutes' time. You've got that long to get everyone out.
They also they did not treat it as a terror matter. They treated it as I won't say they were exactly nice about it. Let's face it, but they were at least trying to establish a sort of set of rules, because they saw it as an army versus an army kind of conflict. They weren't playing this whole "we're going to target women and children" bullshit.
Yeah. Largely, there were people hurt on both sides and killed, but there was an attempt on both sides to try and keep it to the respective armies, and blowing up buildings rather than people.
And that's one of the things that I think is arguably making the IRA situation, to me, and I'm not going to use the right term for it, but the closest thing that I can think of would be palatable. And again, I'm using the wrong term, but it's the closest one that I can think of off the top of my head. The IRA still exists, but today it is almost exclusively political in nature. And there were various other organisations out there, like the Ulster Volunteer Force, Ulster Defence Force, various others groups on both sides of the divide, fighting each other. Yep. Now, in this particular case, as was mentioned, at least, and I'm going to use scare quotes on this one, at least, with the IRA, they at least gave some warning. It may not have been great warning, but they at least said, look, we're taking this out. Get everybody the hell out. We don't...
I'd say they were with fair play to them. They were, I believe, from what I've heard from the various news reports I can remember, normally fairly good at the warning. They would also do things like provide recognition codes to the police through their political contact, so that there was a way of establishing that this is a genuine threat and not some nutter thinking they're funny,
which is kind of a odd way of thinking about it too. But
there was an organisation there that could be dealt with on a political basis. Whereas this seems to be a very different. What we're seeing these days is a very different situation.
Their argument was with the established authority that had taken over Northern Ireland, not with a people or a culture.
Yeah.
But with a group who said, we're in charge of you, and they did not like that, which was entirely different from what these
People.
fellas are pulling off.
Yeah.
And I am doing my best to restrain myself, and I am failing very, very poorly at it because
You're doing okay right at the moment.
no matter. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I've got a lot to
Joseph,
say, but
it's understandable. Joseph, with the way that things have been playing out at this point, how... I don't want to ask you about the people, the motivations, and all that stuff, because there are plenty of other places that are going to cover that a hell of a lot better than we can. How... I guess the question I want to ask is, how have things been going since at this point? The overall feel for you, for the people that you've interacted with since. I mean, I got to imagine it can't be too much different from what New York City was like for a little while, where everybody was really afraid of everybody else and trying to put on a brave face, at least temporarily.
Yeah, people here, well, they don't tend to jump to conclusions the way a lot of people do. So it's kind of a big waiting game now, because the identity of the attackers is pretty important. Were they locals or were they from another country? I think we're waiting for that answer before.
They're reporting currently that they arrested somebody in Germany who supposedly had connections to the bombers in terms of supplying the material. Found
And that was
amounts
like
of TNT.
That was over a week ago, though. They didn't obviously know what he was up to specifically, but
and that's a hypothesis. They still haven't found the connection.
The other story I was hearing is apparently one of the bombers was a quote refugee that had come through Greece, or that had faked being a refugee and come in through Greece, like.
But that's what they do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
But some people are using this to condemn immigration in general, which
doesn't work. Because the thing with these people is they use basically their own people as kind of a human shield by pretending to be a refugee, by pretending to be, a regular immigrant or whatnot. And they do that on purpose because they know that, generally speaking, the global community wants to help the people. And they're the people that are creating the refugees in the first place, right? So they're displacing all these people. The world steps in and says, "Hey, we'll help take care of you," and then they infiltrate the people that they've displaced and weasel their way in, which, it sucks, but they want. Because if you come back and say, well, it's all an immigration thing, then they're going to sit there, go, well, look at you, you people don't care, and now we're going to bomb you even more because you hate refugees.
Exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, and that position, like condemning all refugees, it's like a reverse Ben Affleck. I mean, it's like conflating religion with an origin of a people. Yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about, though. It's exactly what they want. They want people to start looking at this entire culture as one group of people who can't be trusted, because that gives them more fuel for their own for their own ends, for their own means.
Religion uses people as everything, actually, as a justification for authority. They use them as a source of income. They use them as an army. They use them as a human shield. they use them as a, oh, it's not us, it's them excuse. Whenever
and by discouraging other nations to not take in these refugees, they basically get to hang on to all of their hostages.
And hostages, that's important.
Yeah, these people are being cut off and being forced to go back, or ideally, in their minds, these people would be turned away from these other places, would be forced to go back to the places they were trying to run away from, and be under their thumb the way they want them to be. So that they can draft, or so they can conscript whoever they want to become part of their little, their little party.
Yeah. Now, the piece about this that, well, before we went on to the air, Tech was talking with us, and was mentioning about how I will let people go on into an area and then start bringing it back and kind of tying these pieces together, which is kind of the thing that I want to do right here, because we've talked about a couple of different pieces that don't seem to button together. Here's where it buttons together. There is a huge difference between what has typically been referred to as the code. Sorry, I think that I'm remembering correctly, the code of warfare. Now, I may be thinking of the wrong methodology about this, but
you have the basic idea.
Okay, the idea would be you are. Okay, I'm going to romanticize it a little bit because it sounds better in my own damn head. You are a warrior. You fight another warrior. That's it. Case closed. End of story. You don't pull in somebody who is not there to fight you. You fight with the other person who is there to fight you, and that's it. Case closed. That's it. You don't pull anybody else into it. And you wear the banner, the standard of whoever it is that you're fighting for, whether it's the knights in armor and they've got the banner being held, or the samurai with their code. But you were fighting another guy who was there to fight you, and that's it.
Even the old gangs were like that. There was a code. The mafias, the different mafia branches, it would be, you didn't attack the children. You didn't attack the women who were not involved in any of the stuff. Well, you didn't typically attack women in general, but and many of the women were not active in the sense that the men were. But regardless of that, it was also it was slightly different America. But the point is that those gangs had the same similar codes that warriors had. And when other gangs started coming along that didn't care about the code, they didn't care about not attacking family members, about not killing kids and things like, and not worrying about collateral damage, they started taking out the old school gangs and taking over. And you had a lot of bad stuff happening. You started needing literally SWAT teams to deal with the gangs instead of police forces.
Yeah, it was called. It's been referred to as organized crime war, because it's effectively what it was. It was one group who screwed around.
It was literally organized.
Yes,
it really was.
Now, to kind of go along with that, here's the piece that I'm pulling it together with. Warfare is handled between organized groups. Typically, politically, of course, it would be country versus country, or city-state versus city-state. Yeah, Joey?
Belligerent powers is the term you are looking for.
Okay.
This is a fairly modern practice, and there's a lot of treaties and international agreements around it, and it's become more so as we've had more technology and ability to slaughter large numbers of people very quickly. Where back in history, practices of razing cities to the ground, killing people, torture, to inspire terror, etc.
We called those the Dark Ages.
Went on for a long time, and there's been an attempt made to try and limit limit civilian casualties and damage, and keep it between essentially the governing bodies involved.
And
we had rules of warfare so that we would minimize the amount of possible extinction level events and destruction and chaos and everything else. But when you have a bunch of groups, when you have a group of entities, nations, city-states, all that all agree on a set of rules, okay, if you look at it from a perspective of a card game, you have a bunch of players together, everybody has their own hands, but everybody's agreeing to the rules to follow for the game. And now you suddenly have another player that comes up, they have their own hand, and they are not going to play by the rules. They're going to do everything nasty, dirty, and dangerous possible to win the game. What do? You can't leave the table because there's nowhere else to go. We have one planet right now. You can't... everybody's agreed to follow certain rules. If you start breaking the rules to go after the guys that are breaking the rules, that makes, in some way, shapes, and forms, makes you just as bad as the guys you're going after. And I say guys in general. I don't mean necessarily just men.
Gotcha.
But Dacia's never going to go by the Geneva Conventions, though. Never.
But isn't that kind of ironic, though? Because, like, the rules of warfare, that's a rational thing, and warfare itself is not rational. So that means that there's one side that...
It never has.
Yeah, at least there's one side who's not going to play by the rules, because that's why there's war in the first place.
In the grand scheme of things, no, war has never been rational, and these codifications that we have attempted throughout the years, which, as I was saying earlier, you had the Dark Ages, and everybody was killing everybody on a whim. It was not limited to one particular zone. You had French knights terrorizing serfs in a fiefdom to ensure that, they remained serfs. You had all this other stuff in all different types of cultures. You had the same stuff, which is where you start seeing the code of chivalry come to fruition, where, the Pope and the different kings and all the lords had put forth this idea of, okay, we got to keep these guys from, slaughtering all the peasants. So how do we do that? Oh, that's right. We can go ahead and institute this code where, a knight only fights another knight, and, they take part in jousting and tournaments and duels. And, when you fight a knight on the battlefield, you don't kill him, you ransom him. And
they had armies that could be hired to whoever, and there was prior arrangements that when two hired militia forces would fight each other, when whatever side lost, whoever was left alive would end up getting ransomed back to the hiring party. And there were certain agreements, contractual agreements, that if you were the person who hired the mercenary pirate, you were contractually obligated to ransom, get the people back from the ransom.
Yeah, Joey, finish that off.
What I was trying to continue with was, we kind of devolved. I won't say we devolved. We broke from that when, the technology made the knight obsolete. The technology and the economics behind what made the knights what they were became obsolete with the introduction of gunpowder and, the ability to, take somebody who had trained for a week, give him a firearm, and have him be able to kill a mounted knight who had trained all his life and was clad in, what could be the equivalent of billions of dollars of gear at the time, but it all became obsolete overnight. So you had the breakdown at the end of the Age of Chivalry before we came to what we call the Age of Enlightenment, which is where you really start seeing these codifications of grand-scale warfare come into play. You start seeing, the ships of the line and the battle formations and you, as silly as it seems, you as a civilian could waltz out onto the field of Gettysburg and put a chair down and watch the two armies going at it. I mean, this is something we have documented proof of throughout things like the Civil War and all these other events where the civilians were never targeted. Now, it wasn't necessarily smart for the civilians to be there, and quite often you ended up with civilians who regretted being there, but nobody was targeting them.
Okay, and Joseph, yeah, really quickly.
Yeah, there was something else that's changed too, is that it's kind of elimination of classes, because before warfare was something that was a thing of the nobles, and the serfs would just continue surfing no matter who was king. I mean, I think Monty Python, that scene in Monty Python, the one where he goes,
got a bizarre image in my mind.
Yeah, a king. Well, how do you know he's a king? Well, he hasn't got shit all over him.
Yes, well, there's some lovely filth over here.
Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing about it, though. It used to be that anybody who could raise up enough money could go ahead and just take on somebody else, whether it was food or money or resources or whatever. And over time, it became city-states, and after that, it was groups, tribes, and nations. And to this day, we've been trying to minimize non-belligerent casualties or injuries or whatever. To this day, we have amazing technology that says, okay, I've got a missile that is going to be launched from 5 kilometers away, and it's going to hit a single automobile in motion. Now,
in theory.
In theory.
In reality, we've had a lot of oopses and to happen, and
I'm coming.
Okay.
Leaving the political portion of it aside for a second, the technological side is amazing to consider. The political side of it, the human aspect of it, is terrifying. Because this technology, of course, can be used for damn near anything, as far as to who shouldn't be alive anymore and who gets to decide that. And that is, of course, immensely terrifying to people who, well, typically want to continue living. And don't even get me started on the whole bullshit of, well, if you weren't doing anything wrong argument, because that's just crap. And we can end up talking about that another time.
You go ahead and try to use that argument for the 12-year-old vaporized at ground zero of Hiroshima.
There are a whole bunch of things like that, and a whole bunch of rationalizations, and there's no way in hell that our show is going to be able to tackle enough of that to make a dent.
But you know what? I will say this much. That at least was a tough call. We weighed decisions on that. And, I could just put it all on the shoulders of, Truman or, some general. But as a whole, we look back at that and we know that was a tough call. And we know exactly why it escalated to that point. Because had it been the other way around, we could still be fighting that war. And it became a matter of ending it as quickly as possible.
And that's one of the reasons why it's such a tough call, because we'll never know what would have happened if...
don't know what a tough call is. They don't have any friggin' clue what a tough call is, because they want this kind of panic. They want this kind of confusion, and...
and they don't know what the information was. Like, after we can look at it after the fact, now that we're better informed, but we don't know what information these guys were deciding on at the time.
See, the thing that drives me up a wall about this whole damn thing is World War I it was a bar fight, as it was described. It was just pell-mell all over the place. It ransacked so many different areas for so many different reasons: political, economic, social. It was barbaric in its scope as far as to why. World War II comes in, and it was a pretty straightforward, they're bad and we're not. It didn't even have to be we're good. It just, we weren't them. And let's face it, that one was, as far as wars go, conflicts, that was a pretty straightforward piece. But again, it was well defined. And arguably, that's what made World War II so much easier to deal with. Granted, my side of the equation was pretty piss poor. America... Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, even with World War II, it's not one of those things where you can just say, oh, the Japanese were bad, or oh, the Germans were bad and we had to stop them. Oh, guarantee you there were some bad Germans and bad Japanese that had to be stopped, and Italians, and plenty of others. But the thing is, you look at the situation we're in now, and I know I'm breaking one of those internet rules by bringing in the Nazis, but guess what? I'm going to do it. Because you know what? Your average German citizen didn't want a war. They didn't want a conflict. The problem was that the Nazis, who were a minority in the grand scheme of things, were able to get enough weapons. Well, they were able to get enough sway to get power. They used that power to consolidate weapons, to consolidate more power, until they were the ones calling the shots, which is exactly the situation that these assholes are playing at right now.
Okay, now, see, forgive me for wording it this way. You're leading the bit. Don't worry. I'm where you're going. I'm gonna end up getting us there in a couple of months. By all means.
Yeah, just one point. There's one thing that's changed a lot between World War I and World War II, and that's democracy. Because
I was going to say sanity.
Well, one and the same for me. But before, like England, they were a world power, and like the monarchy was absolute and all that, and that really changed between World I and World War II, where the people became.
I would say we've been fairly democratic.
Yeah.
Over here for quite a bit longer than that. And it's back since sort of Cromwell's day, more or less.
It's been argued that World War I was the death of colonialization, because you just fought this war talking about how you were fighting for freedoms and to keep the German Empire from pretty much colonizing the whole of Europe and so on and so forth. And having now won the war, it was pretty hypocritical for you to say, oh, but India can't be free, which is why you saw the rise of India as an independent nation and all the colonial aspect, and not just for the British, but worldwide. You saw colonial ideals disintegrate, and for some nations it took longer than others. No offense, France, but Vietnam kind of slipped out of your hands there, and unfortunately we went ahead and decided to do the whole bar fight thing simply based on the idea of communism and jump in, and well, look how that worked out for us.
Well, let's be fair. We can't exactly lay that on his feet. I mean, he's a transplant after all. It's okay, Joseph. We don't hold anything personally against him.
I will say this much though for the French: no matter how many times they may be called cheese-eating surrender monkeys. Thank you, groundskeeper Willie. I will say this much:
outrage.
Despite what people like to joke about and think, currently the French soldier throughout history has the best track record on the planet. If you wager wins to losses overall, and sure they may not have had the best track record in recent history, but there's a reason why France was the power to be for the better part of 1,000 years on the European continent, and I guarantee you that's still there. They may be polite. Well, okay, hold on a moment. They might
No,
be.
that's this side.
They might be a little. They might be a little more restrained and modest and level-headed nowadays, because it's what happens when you finally mature. But you go ahead
You're
and keep
removal in
pulling.
the head of a few politicians.
You keep at this kind of thing. You go ahead and keep at this kind of thing, and you watch how quickly it will turn around to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Go ahead and pull on the tail of the sleeping tiger. There's only a matter of time before the teeth come around.
Yeah. Keep poking with a stick and see what happens.
Yeah,
You know, France has been a mixing pot, like since forever. Like they're dead center in the middle of Europe, so they get all the ideas from everywhere, and they, for everything, for even down to philosophy. So, and they just take advantage of that. But
yeah. Now, the a piece about this that I want to make sure that is kind of understood. There's an old adage that said that if Germany had won the war, we'd all be speaking German. And fortunately, I mean, we don't speak German, and, if it had been France that had won the war, we'd all be speak. Oh, wait, you guys in Canada do kind of don't. Just kind of. Sorry.
can I
Yeah,
remind you
and
that French was the
Arno's family
lingua.
speaks German.
Yeah.
The French was the lingua franca for like centuries.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, obviously, but what you're referring to, the way we treat Latin and English nowadays, Latin as the foremost scientific and we use that as a high end, but when we go low end, we typically use English throughout the world because courtesy of the empire, that's spread like wildfire. But for a long time, hell, you could have monarchs of a country who didn't even speak that country's language.
They all spoke French.
French, but everybody spoke French.
Yep.
Yeah, and if memory serves,
it was a big deal.
Yeah, if memory serves, for a long time, the UN was using French as its official translation language, if I remember correctly, interchange language, or something like that. Now, I could be wrong on that one, but...
Even on the English flag, it's or not the English flag, I forget what it is. It says, Dieu est mon droit. It's written on the Queen.
Coat of arms. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, here's the piece that I was really looking to bring this all to kind of get together with. Conflict, if you go by the rules, and I'm not using the terminology correctly, but if you were to follow the typical codes that had been mutually agreed on, even tacitly, there were a number of things that you didn't do. One of which I remember seeing, admittedly it was a movie, set for, I believe it was World War II. There were two factions. One was American. I forget what the other was. On the water, two boats were going back and forth, and one guy on the American side had a machine gun of some kind and was firing across. And on the other side, there were a couple of guys who came out there with a big banner between them, white banner with a red cross on it. You don't shoot the medics. That was one of those things that was an unwritten rule, or written rule, but you didn't do that. Medics came out, the Red Cross came out, you did not shoot them, period. Just end of story. You didn't. You go back centuries before that, the unwritten rule was you don't kill the messenger. There was a real thing about that. And then it's you don't get the innocent involved. And now, here's where I've been taking it. This is where I've been slowly, gradually bringing this over to. Now, it's back to the barbarism of anybody is a fair target. Bridget, I know that you don't end up talking a lot in a lot of these situations, but this is your alley now. You dealt in the medical area. The whole you don't shoot the medics. I gotta believe at some point or other you kind of remember this in some way, shape, or form, even as just anecdotal. No?
As far as our training and things, we were trained in Geneva Conventions. I was qualified on M16 and a 38, but we were told that in a wartime situation we were non-combatants and could not carry firearms or defend ourselves. But, if people were playing by the rules, if they happen to see, a medical, field hospital or a tent, they're not supposed to attack it. But the people we're dealing with now are not going to play by the rules.
Of course they're not. I mean, they're going to if they blow up a school filled with children,
right?
A teacher, a medic who is patching up a soldier, to them, that person needs to die. That's the mentality.
Well, I mean, we were supposed to mark all of our things with the Red Cross, but to me that makes us a target because our job is to triage people and get them ready to go back on the field.
These people, the weakest link is the best target. Because in the manifesto that they sent out, they basically said, we hit you in the soft spot. We came where you wouldn't expect us, and we hit you where you were, basically you were having fun and not thinking about those things, and they do that on purpose. And so any vulnerable target is going to be like jackpot for these assholes. And they, in fact, before we came on the show, it came across my newsfeed, and I don't know how much this has been verified, but it was a story saying that ISIS had just gone and executed 200 Syrian children. And there was a picture that I didn't really want to look at, but I don't know how accurate that is at this point, but that was the story coming out. And
they have been doing that, so I would have no reason to question it.
Yeah, they don't care. What they want to do is be as horribly brutal as possible, so that people, in their minds, people are going to say, "Whoa, these guys will do anything. I just better bow down and kiss Allah's ass." And hopefully,
that's what's been happening. That's how they are making all these incursions into Afghanistan, and they're starting to go into Turkey. They're trying to take over the whole Levant.
Yeah.
At the risk of being anecdotal for a moment, let me go ahead and put a little perspective your way.
Mm-hmm.
In 2007, I was engaged in a firefight in which a friend of mine was shot and killed. The guy who shot him was himself shot and survived. And I can't tell you how very good it would have felt for me to just put a bullet right between his eyes right then and there. But I didn't. And do you know why? Why instead I decided to drag him onto the back of a truck so that our medics could then patch him up, the guy who was just trying to kill me and my friends, the guy who did the same kind of shit that just happened yesterday, the kind of guy who thinks that, a woman should not be allowed to speak her mind, and that if you so much as say one word against his God, that you need to be stoned to death at the city gates. No, I didn't kill him. Because we have a rule. Once you're no longer fighting, you're no longer a combatant.
And it's also a way of showing them.
We took him away, and we went ahead and gave him due fucking process.
Yes, Joseph.
Yeah, it's also a way of showing them that he's wrong.
But you see, they don't see themselves as being wrong. When you
have start somewhere.
These guys, the members of ISIS practice the religion called Islam. They're Muslims, okay? In the Quran.
No, hold on.
No.
Tech, let me stop you right there, because we're not going to play that game, because I have known many Islamists. I have known many Muslims who would live just as peacefully as anybody else.
Right.
Because they recognize
Hold on.
bullshit when they see it,
I'm talking about the ISIS people. They see the part in there that says that it's okay for them to lie to the enemy.
They don't
Because-
see the part in it. I wouldn't even go to the Quran because they don't even read it. It's all about following the orders of whoever's leading them, and that's it.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let me cut this one off for the time being, because there's a lot of pieces about this that we're not going to have nearly enough time to get through correctly. Forgive me, Tech. I'm sorry for right at the moment. I want to hold this off because there's a piece that we need to get in here before we finish off. There's two pieces. Item one, Dallin, really quickly, the piece about whoever, however many, doesn't really much matter. The point being that these reports about people being taken out injured, even though they are unreferenced or perhaps unresearched at the moment and the hell is the unconfirmed? That's what I'm looking for. How annoying is it that it's all too believable?
That's the problem these days. You look. Where do you go for the truth? Where do you go to actually? Okay, we know this happened. We know that other atrocities have happened. But if you go out on media these days, what do you read? What do you believe? Because you've got half the media saying one thing, you got the other half saying something else. It's getting confusing to the point these days where I don't know.
Yeah, it's and it's not just with this issue. There are so many reports and videos and stuff on there coming out about atrocities, and no doubt some of them are true. They may all be true, but what I'm seeing is like stories from 2, 3, 4 years ago constantly being recycled as if they're new events.
That's just trolls, though.
But okay, you say the posts may originate with trolls, but they're picked up by media sites, by other people who really should know fucking better, to be honest. And then they're disseminated further. But it's not just with this issue, it's with like and I'll take a tangent off to like Republican politicians at the moment. The stuff that some of the politicians around in America and around the world are saying these days is so batshit crazy that it's virtually beyond satire. And it's making, like, even distinguishing what's satire and what's actually real is getting more and more challenging.
Well, here's an example. Have you guys ever heard the name Blackjack Pershing?
Can't say as I have.
Okay. General Blackjack Pershing, born September 13th, 1860, near Laclede. Anyways, died in 1948 in Washington, D.C. A highly decorated general. Now, according to this, just before World War I, there were a number of terrorist attacks on the United States forces in the Philippines by Muslim extremists. General Pershing captured 50 of these terrorists and had them tied to posts for execution. He had his men bring in 2 pigs and slaughtered them in front of the now horrified terrorists. Muslims detest pork because they believe pigs are filthy animals. Some of them simply refuse to eat it, while others won't even touch pigs at all, nor any of their byproducts. Yada, yada, yada. Pershing then had his soldiers soak their rounds in the pig's blood, lock and load, and then proceed to execute 49 of the terrorists by firing squad. The soldiers then dug a big hole, dumped the terrorist bodies, and covered them in pig blood, the entrails, etc. They let the 50th man go. For the next 42 years, there was not a single Muslim extremist attack anywhere in the world. I have heard this. No, just let me finish. this has sometimes gone out as a battle cry in response to things like 9/11, like this attack, like other things. However, it's bunk.
Well, of
That whole
course.
thing I just read is made up.
Never
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
And it's an
But-
incitation, and they're going to use it. They're going to quote it everywhere as a justification for attack.
Precisely. And this is what I was getting to. When I first read this, I thought, like, this guy's brilliant. Like, why are we not doing this again?
Yeah.
And it took me years to finally figure out that this was all bullshit.
Yeah, and it's invented by a motherfucker who's just sitting there in his armchair who's never seen a minute of war.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure, like, this isn't off of Wikipedia, but imagine if I actually went looking for this Jack Pershing guy. I could probably find him in history, and maybe he did serve in the Philippines, and maybe he was a particular kind of general, but I don't quite think this happened. But
Didn't mean another one of those manufactured things like Fred Rogers was a sniper all those years ago.
yeah, but my point being, and like you said, you know, you have all this stuff happening. All these media outlets saying one thing after another, like the allegations that the guy was a refugee from Greece. Another one saying that if we stop immigration, all this will stop. Like,
Or if everyone in Paris had guns, it would never happen.
oh,
That's another
okay, you know what? All right,
idiotic one.
I know for a fact Donald Trump is watching this show. So yeah, so Donnie, and, okay, I'm about to ruffle about every feather on this panel, and I'm not sorry for what I'm about to say.
No, those aren't feathers. Those are in fact, his toupee.
Okay, but
It's a
all you
hamster.
people south of the border right now, I make no apologies for what I'm about to say. Tell me, Donald Trump. Tell me, Dick Cheney. Tell me, W. Tell me, all you Republican jackholes. How well was your armed America during 9/11? After all, you had guns all this time. Where were they?
Okay, you hit exactly you hit part of where I wanted to get to.
ISIS
So
steps on American soil. You guys are going to tuck tail and run for the hills.
You know,
Well,
there's something that's being missed here. Is that, you know, I really think society, we have our ass between two chairs, because on one side we're used to just blindly obeying authority and like believing every word they say, and like all of a sudden we're like overwhelmed with information from everywhere on the internet, and people are still sticking to the same behavior patterns, and they're not questioning anything they're reading. They're just, you know, who are you following? That's what it's all about.
okay, now before we get past this, because we need to see about wrapping this together, and the last piece that I wanted to make sure that I hit, because of how this has been playing through. A very good portion of this type of guerrilla warfare. I'm sorry, I'm starting to get tired. My pronunciation's going out the window. And it's effectively what it is. I'm sorry?
To be fair, this is more than guerrilla warfare. There is a reason why we use the term terrorism, but we know what you're talking about. So go.
Yes. I'm using that term because not as well versed. It's the best one I can think of off the top of my head. This type of quote-unquote combat has been highly attributed to, not in all cases, but highly attributed to religious sectarianism. Now, there can very easily be an argument made for exactly this. Here's why I wanted to hit this one specifically. What happens when this type of thing happens and countries that have theocratic rule that can then officially sanction this and push for it suddenly meets up with another sectarian government in opposition of? And I'm bringing this up very specifically because the United States, being one of the last superpowers, if not the last, has a very dangerous tipping point for sectarian leadership. Dallin, you are the one who brought it up many, many times before. You're getting the opportunity of leading this whole thing off for your closing idea on this, because you've been very outspoken about that on many an occasion. How dangerous is that for the future of any country to be able to do this?
It's fatal. I've often said we're at a crossroads as a race, as the planet. We are at a crossroads right now.
It's a species.
Yeah, thank you. I actually blanked on that word. No, right now we are one generation away from either being something great or being something not so great. I mean, right now we are the old ways, the ways of religion, the ways of worshiping a god, whatever that god is falling by the wayside in light of the fact that we're understanding more.
Can't tell you how much I am fighting the urge to start singing Kansas right now.
Yeah. But
all we are is dust in
no, but that's just it. We live in a time where we're seeing the transition live. Like when I was growing up, it was Sunday school, it was church, it was all this. I was 22 when I first heard of the internet. That's a long time ago now. And in 4 short years, after I saw the very first web browser, I have seen it explode into what we are now. Like, here we are. We're talking, we're a group of 8 people talking from across the world, and I'm not talking figuratively here. We're literally. We got people in Canada, we got people in the US, France, Britain, we've had people from Australia, and we've got people watching us all over the world. In our lifetime, we've seen this evolve. And we're seeing the exchange of ideas, the sharing of knowledge, the advancement of technology. But what else are we also seeing? We're seeing religion digging their heels in and saying all of this is the work of the devil and it must be stopped. And now the war is on for which way does the next generation go? Does it go the way of progress so that maybe we do get the 24-hour rock and roll hibachi party of peace and love that we all want and go to Mars? Or do we become the next, or does North America become the next theocracy and we follow the way of the mullahs?
And that is what scares the living hell out of me right now more than anything. It's not. It's not.
I'm not even there, and it scares the shit out of me as well.
It's well. Hold on a second. Wrap your mind around this for a moment. We all know the old saying, "Violence begets violence. An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind." Yeah, we know that. It's been beaten into our heads many times, but nowhere has it been as clear as it is right now. Because look at it this way: every time you push to attack, France or America, you're not attacking the guys that are saying, "Let's put priests in the ballot boxes." No, you're not attacking them. You go out and your victims are who? Average Joe Schmo, the guy who actually sees the bullshit for what it is, who would not necessarily let, Al Sharpton become the next president of the United States. But no, you go ahead, you attack the average guys who otherwise would balance things out. But instead, you attack the average guys, you end up seeing the guys who are the religious extremists in opposition suddenly get, you're giving them a freaking leg up. Every time you do this, you are making it more and more likely that it's going to come down to something like that.
Yeah.
Chris, I'll give you your opportunity on this one too. How dangerous, your opinion, is it going to be if it goes that way?
I don't know. I don't know. I know, Joe. I've got a feeling there is a lot of issues on there where you have, as we've discussed in previous shows, and seen is where you have a drastic divide between the haves and the have-nots, and you have the people in power pushing as hard as they can to push everyone else down, rather than get their advantage that way, rather than trying to raise everyone up, and make a bigger pie for everyone. Eventually, you're going to get enough people that have been shit on from on high that things are going to go very bad, and they have done before. On their things like the Watts situation, on their things, and this relates to a lot of what's going on in the Middle East. There's people that say on both who say it's all about the religion and the Quran and whatever else, and then people who say it's got nothing to do with it. Granted, it's a very complicated economic and political situation where you've got different groups of people that have been trying to shit on each other for since the year dot, and a lot of people have got pissed off with it, and they're going all out, fighting insurgencies, and then you've got various foreign powers who've been sticking their oars into the situation for decades, if not centuries. It's a whole mess, but the religion thing, as Joseph points out, is another avenue of control for the people in charge, and it doesn't help the situation one bit.
But they all have the same goal. It's controlling what other people think. That's what religion is all about. That's what the terrorists are trying to do. Ultimately, they have the same goal. And that's what the
tribalism and conformity.
Yeah, and the old school authority, they have the same goal too, because they want to hang on to their laurels, and they want the old just don't think, obey society that we grew up in. I mean, they're still hanging on to that. So it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, everyone who wants to say that this is strictly a religious issue, religious extremism and all that, is not thinking clearly. Because when you really break it down, it is not about religion. I've met many people of many different religions. I, being an atheist, get along just fine with Christians and Muslims. But I'll tell you this much, it is not a matter of religion, it is simply a matter of the people that are calling the shots, the ones who are currently in seats of power, wherever those seats may be it, controlling from their imperial palace or from their little villa in, some suburb of Pakistan. They have power and they want to hold on to it, and for a lot of folks, the easiest way for them to do that is to use a religious cause. So they use religion not as the reason for fighting, but as the rallying cry. And they use it they choose to mask their own objectives with it.
Yeah,
so it's not the fault of religion. It is the fault of these individuals that are...
It's the fault of humans trying to make other humans obey their rules. That's it.
Okay, I'm going to end up hitting that.
Yeah,
I promise. Just a couple of moments. I want to make sure I get everybody else's, in here before we get cleared out. Something real quick, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say over here. I saw this back in the 80s, early 90s, with a lot of the stuff going on in Northern Ireland with it. Being characterized many places as Catholic versus Protestant, etc. And while religious leaders at the time were no doubt not helping the situation, a lot of it was down to the fact that people a lot of people have been treated like dirt, basically, like various corruptions where people couldn't get jobs, couldn't get access to housing, all kinds of things where people were being treated badly because of maybe where they lived or what their religion was,
That's
or
happening here in
this
France.
by various powers. And so this has been going on for a long time, and so while I get what Joseph's saying on there, that it's not necessarily about the religion, and it's just about the people in charge wanting to maintain their power base and their privilege. After something like a situation like that has been going on long enough, then for the people on the ground involved in it, it can very easily become very much about the religion and the religious differences, because that's where the people in charge have sort of drawn the lines. And then, it becomes personal because people,
Becomes us or them.
it becomes us versus them when, a Catholic kid's beaten up for being in the wrong area or something, then, and a Protestant kid's beaten up somewhere else is in revenge, and that makes it personal for those families and those people that know them, and those divides are very often, that person was picked out as a victim because of religion, and no doubt the same kind of thing's gone on in the Middle East with the different sects and different groups. So I think Joseph's got... I'm not saying that Joseph's wrong about the people in charge on there. I'm saying that for a lot of people in these kinds of situations, it does become about the religion.
And that's exactly the way the guy said.
Well, I didn't say it didn't become that.
I think he was referring to me.
Yeah.
No, but I was neither. I was just asking you to look deeper. That it's about religion is a means to make other people obey your rules. When you have a class difference, when you have people who know better, and then you have an uneducated people, you have a choice of either educating them or telling them what to do and have them mindlessly obey your orders and you be the voice of authority. And both religion and our powers that be, they have chosen the route of they're used to the route of telling us what to do, and us not questioning both of them.
Yeah, I'll be hitting that again. I'll be hitting in a moment. Tech, where would you like to just button up on this one now?
In the view of the universe, in the time scale of the universe, everything that's happened is in the blink of an eye. But to those that are affected by this, whether it be indirectly, directly, time slows down. And the things that we can do at this point is we can recognize the fact that we as humans are an immature species on this planet. We're going to fight. We're not going to get along. We're going to disagree on a lot of things. But where you can help is by expressing that wonderful part of our humanity, our part to empathize with those around us, with their pain and suffering, even if we've never directly experienced the level of their pain and suffering, we can empathize with the fact that they are going through it and be there for them, offer them assistance in the whatever, even if your only assistance is limited to saying, listen, I have no money for you, I don't have any food to give you or any clothes, but I'm here, I can listen. I'm thinking about you. You're in my heart, whatever the case might be. You really want to fight terrorism? Let the soldiers do their job. Let the politicians argue it out. Let it Let all that happen. Go to the polls, put your votes in, contact your senators, your political leaders, whatever they may be called, depending on the country that you're in, and make your voice heard. But don't forget about the people around you. Offer your help. Let them know that you're there, that you're thinking about them, that not everybody is, out to kill each other, that we do exist, that we do love one another, and that we can be there for them in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. Heretic Woman, I'll get you your opportunity over here, too.
Well, one of the things that it always sticks out for me when something like this happens, and after 9/11 that was a huge problem, and something I think that America is still dealing with is you can't change who you are, because then they win. And so, I mean, there's one thing about being more aware, being vigilant, whatnot. That's absolutely fine, but don't turn into, this uber nanny state because that's what they want to. That always concerns me, because I mean, we just brought in that Bill C-51 where we were starting to go down that path, and I'm hoping that will stop. But you gotta carry on, live life just as it was, because the second you start looking over your shoulder and wondering, that's when they win, and you can't do that. And one other thing too, and Joseph said this very well in another forum completely, but people always say, how do these people get radicalized like this? And what he was saying, it starts with somebody who feels like they're hopeless, like they can't get anywhere in life, and then the religious leaders take those people and exploit them to their own ends. So it's a two-pronged thing. And religion has a huge part to play in this, but and people have said this, if somebody is happy in their life, they're not going to go, oh, Imam said I need to go blow up, infidels, I better go do that. They're going to be very rational about it. But if somebody feels like they're cornered, they can't get ahead, that the society that they're living in hates them and won't give them a break, they're going to be knocking down the Imam's door to get a bloody, dynamite belt or whatever.
Oh, they don't have to knock down their door. They've got imams looking for kids.
Looking for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, in case in point, the woman who Paul interviewed on his show a while back, the lady from Alberta, whose son went over and was killed, I believe in Syria, and she said he had mental illness, which had nothing really to do with that, other than it put him in the mosque. He found that Islam worked to help with his mental illness, which was great, and nobody had a problem with that. But he ended up in a mosque where they were targeting people that were easily manipulated, and they glommed onto this kid, and they told him that if he was going to go and fight for ISIS, he would be protecting women and children. And he was the kind of kid, according to his mother, that really wanted to help people, and they twisted it into, you're going to go over and you're going to be a hero to women and children and protect them, and he ended up getting killed over there for nothing. And that's what they do. They take the people who they look at and say, I can manipulate this person, and twist them into somebody who's going to go strap on a suicide belt and shoot up a bunch of people at a rock concert.
All without lifting a fucking finger.
Yeah.
Bridget, you get your opportunity here. You get to pull up the rear, as it were.
I'm not sure what else I can add. I see what's coming, and I have no idea what we would do to stop it. Somebody's going to have to put a stop to it, but who and how?
Yeah, Joey, I saw that you wanted to hit real quick, and Chris, I'll give you a real quick moment.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I had tossed around the word maturity earlier, and I'm sorry to have to come back to it, but I'm going to, because it really does come down to acts like these are tantrums. They're destructive, oh yes, but they're tantrums. They're attempts to get attention and to push around people. And it's the act of a child. We don't do these sorts of things anymore because we've grown past them. We've matured. We've grown the fuck up, and we've gotten our shit together. You want to we want to have somebody take you seriously, grow the fuck up. And to the people of France, I will say this. My heart is with you, but you don't for a moment listen to somebody who says go looking for revenge. Revenge is the worst possible thing. But I'm not going to tell you to sit on your asses about it either. I'm not going to tell you to smile and turn the other cheek. Because there is something we can do, and something that you guys happen to know very well, as you have demonstrated, past couple hundred years. Go out for justice. There's a big difference.
There's a piece about all this that I wanted to close on. What I was specifically asking about earlier was what happens when an immovable object is met with an irresistible force. What happens when they both collide? It's a boom. It's a big, big boom. There's only one thing that comes from that. Pain. Absolutely. There's no other way of describing it. And in this particular situation, theology versus theology, it ends in pain. There's no other way of putting it. You want to talk about what warfare is like, and you want to hold up a holy book, I don't care which one it is, Abrahamic will all say the same damn thing. Kill it all. Kill it all except for the spoils that you can take for your own damn self, because it's going to satisfy your dick.
Because it all comes down to people with no demonstrable reason for their authority trying to rule people, just because they can. And people have to start questioning. People with authority, they better have a demonstrable reason why they're the authority. Because the only way they can stay in power is ignorance.
That's what I was. Yeah, and this is where I'm taking it.
And this goes to like Donald Trump and religious leaders. They both have no demonstrable reason why they should be an authority. Why should they lead you? Think about it.
Religions claim authority. That's the big thing. They claim the authority. Emptily is quite right. Even though I can't believe that I actually pronounced that right the first time. Religion claims absolute authority. And before we go any much further than that, think about this a second. There is a motto that says, for God and country. In some military circles, and we're not going to talk about which ones they are or who they belong to, it doesn't matter. When your religious ideology trumps national sovereignty, there's a problem. Now, we can get into the whole nationalistic thing and how much dick-waving there is to go along with it. You know what? If we're going for not safe for work at this point, fuck it, I don't much care. It's dick-waving. There's no other way of describing it to me. It's who's got the biggest dick that they can flop around. And why am I harping on that? Because that's how inconsequential it truly is.
King of the hill.
Yes. Now, consider this a second. And consider very carefully. What happens when that theocratic ideology trumps national laws? You get away with whatever it is that your book says you're supposed to get away with, but you don't even. You get away with whoever it is that supposedly has the authority of the book, who has the interpretation of the book.
They can
And
basically do whatever they want.
And then they can do that. In a small instance, we saw that with, well, down in Kentucky. Somebody who thought that their religion trumped their secular laws and duties. And what happened? They went ahead for a short time. They overrode what was the law of the land because they could, because they thought that they had the authority. And other people said, you've got the authority to do that too. And other people are saying, I will make it so that you've got the authority of doing it, except that it's wrong.
I'm sorry to constantly interject, but I mean, secular laws are the only thing holding religion in check.
And now you went and you derailed me, thanks.
Sorry.
Now I'll take it out of your paycheck.
Oh.
The thing that we need to remember is that secular laws, no matter what you talk about them in terms of, are laws. They're intended to be fair across the board for everyone. Here in the United States of America, the big thing was about marriage. A civil right. Is everyone equal under the law? And the highest court in our nation said, yes, everyone is to be treated equally. That is the main reason this country existed. The main charter. We hold that these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal. Substitute human for the word man, because it was written in the day when man meant, theoretically, everyone. That is the charter that I was born into, and I believe in that highly. So many countries over the years have looked at that and said, that's a damn good idea. That's a good bit of writing. I like that. And some groups say, my book trumps your equality. And that's what it all comes down to. Do you really want people who are going to go ahead and say, I have a book to be in charge of anything other than their own respiration?
You have to decide whether you have a say or you're going to obey.
Me? I want people who are going to uphold the highest ideals of equality and justice, which means I don't want these people to have any power other than their own breathing. And you know what? Go breathe somewhere away from me. With any luck, people will realize that bullies like this, even though they've got high explosives, are still bullies. And bullies are individuals. They may be coordinated, but they're individuals. You don't blame the entire 7th grade because somebody took a kickball and hit somebody in the back of the head with it. You take out the bully. You don't blame an entire collection of people because a few went ahead and decided that they were going to go ahead and hurt somebody else.
Especially when those people are being held hostage.
With any luck, we won't have to deal with it very much longer. With any luck, with a lot of luck, maybe this was the last. There's only one small problem. I don't believe in luck. Before we get out of here, one last item. Because I wanted to wait until the end for this to go through this last piece. Heretic woman, I didn't get you at the beginning. I wanted to specifically wait for the end. do we have Raif Badawi out of Saudi Arabia yet?
Still in prison.
As of the recording of this show, it has been 3 years, 4 months, 29 days. Unjustly incarcerated for thought crime in a theocratic government. This is why I wanted to wait this time. Because it just underlines the injustice of the whole damn thing. As always, I'd like to thank the panel for taking the time to being with us tonight, and, of course, all of you for taking the time to watch tonight. Joseph, thank you very kindly for your time. Plug everything, and I'm very pleased that you're doing well so far.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, well, okay, I won't forget this time. The Atheist Apocalypse. I think there's a show coming up soon, and yeah, well, that's it.
AtheistApocalypse.com.
Oh yeah, I have to put the URL too, right? Okay, well, she did it for me.
He'll get better, don't worry.
Okay, don't be mad at me.
I'll make sure that the link is in the show notes. Chris, of course, as always, thank you very kindly. Have a good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Been good to be here again.
And nothing for you to plug yet.
Nothing for me to plug now. I'm going to have to go and find something to plug one of these days.
One of these days. Tech, thank you very kindly. You have yourself a good sleep, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to do one from the playbook of Deadpool to all the people out there. He's like, yeah, that are watching us. Fuck yeah.
Okay, somebody remind me to put "not safe for work" on the show title at this point, please. Thank you very kindly.
Well, you already did it several times.
Well, or Dallin can just sit there and go beep, beep for...
Yeah, Dallin, can you edit this thing in post?
What are your kids doing awake at midnight anyways?
I'm going to say no.
Good choice.
It is 2 a.m. now.
It would compromise the integrity of the audio.
Wow, you've got lofty goals for this show. God damn.
Well, that and Jerry Springer can kiss my ass. All right.
That too.
Use angels singing.
Woo! Joey, as always, thank you very much. You get well, please. Yes, Joey.
Sorry, I was listening to something else.
You're on my show, God damn it! What the hell are you doing?
Porn.
A lovely woman.
Midget porn.
No. Listening to a lovely woman by the name of, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this, I am sorry, there are just so many vowels I can deal with in a row. Muriel Mathieu.
Okay.
Wait, she's an actress, no?
A singer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And?
No, that's his entire.
She also did a wonderful rendition of Le Marseille, if I'm pronouncing it.
Le Marseille.
Yeah. Hold your heads up, guys. You got a lot to be proud for.
Bridget, as always, thank you very much. Have a good sleep. And anything for you to plug yet, or?
No.
You're a purring cat, though.
That's just the way that she sounds normally.
That was me. I was passing gas. Sorry.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Adding to the problem of global climate change. Appreciate that, man. Heretic woman.
Every little bit counts.
Plug all the things.
Well, see, now Joseph's done his part, so that's one last thing I have to talk about.
Thank you.
So, Beyond the Trailer Park, Mondays at 9:30 Eastern on YouTube. And this week we are talking with our friend Robert Beatty, who is the retired IRS auditor and nemesis of Kent Hovind. The two have been having kind of an internet duel since Hovind got out of jail. It's quite entertaining. And so we're going to talk about that and also talk about taxation and churches. And the FODA is also going to show up for a bit. So that's...
the regular or the nega?
I'm not sure yet. It depends on his mood, I suppose.
I'm sorry. Did you say Dave motherfucking Foda?
Yeah, Dave motherfucking Foda is gonna be on.
Oh, you got that one in post?
Yeah.
I've already got the NSFW tag up, so we're good.
There we go. So yeah, that's this week, and I'll remind you guys again. But the following week, we're going to talk with our other friend Robert Robinson, the ex-Scientologist, about Leah Irini's Leah? How do you pronounce her name? The King of Queens lady. Leah Reminick.
She's the one with the jumper cables and the car battery.
I don't know. I've never seen the show.
I'm thinking of something else.
Yes, but she has a new book coming out because she left a couple of years ago, and so Robert is going to come back on, and we're going to talk about all things Scientology. And one little thing too, this week we are going to do our first ever pre-recorded show, and I'm kind of excited about it because the young fellow who we're going to speak with, named Riyasat, he is originally from Bangladesh, and he translated for a number of the murdered Bangladeshi writers. So he's going to come on, and we're going to talk about the things happening over there and what that's been like for him. He's been a student here for a couple of years now, thankfully, so he feels relatively safe, but we're going to talk about that stuff. So because he's a student, he's not available on Monday nights, so we're going to pre-record it this week actually, and we're going to upload it in a couple of weeks' time. So I met the young fellow at the non-conference, and he's a very, very passionate young fellow, and we're excited to talk to him.
Of course, on behalf of the entire crew, please, by all means, please extend our most heartfelt sorrows and regrets for all the people that he had been working for.
Absolutely.
And Dallin, of course, thank you very kindly for your time. And by the way, for those, because there's no way in hell he's going to go ahead and announce it, Dallin had been working very, very diligently behind the scenes trying to get things working on the podcast feed, and he solved a huge tech hurdle that we had been running through, and got some help from some folks. And I want to make sure that everybody knew, even though I put it out there on the Twitter feed and such, our audio bitch is an awesome audio bitch. So thank you so many times over, because no way in hell I would have figured this out myself.
Well, again, as always, pleasure to be here. And what I was going to plug was the fact that the podcast version of this show is now up to date. So from episode 1 up until last week are now available as audio MP3 downloads from holycrapthevlogcast.com. It's got an RSS feed now, so you can throw it in your podcatcher if you want. And the interesting part about that was the person who helped me. I'll be quick, but technically the plugin I was using to create the RSS feed was a piece of crap. So I went out on Facebook and asked around in a podcasting community, help. I can't be the only person having this problem. And one guy said, hey, well, instead of that one, try this one. And the one he got me to try was called PowerPress, which is a nice little WordPress add-on that helps you create your MP3 files into an RSS feed, and everything's all happy and beautiful. And I said, great, this is working great and everything. And I was talking with the guy. Yeah, this is what I love about the podcasting / community of anything like this, any kind of shared media like this. The guy I talked to was also the guy who created the damn plugin in the first place.
Awesome.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe it was a bit of a bias thing on his part, but you know what? The shit worked. What I struggled with for a week to get the first 50 episodes on, I went from 1 to 88 in 3 or 4 hours. which is the way it should have been. So, yeah, my little tech rant, again, holycrapthevlogcast.com. That is where the podcast version of this now sits. Let us molest your ear holes all over again.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back over in there, and I'm gonna see if I can set it up so that we've got a little bit more information also. Forgive me, being single dad is not easy on my time, so a lot of the stuff has fallen by the wayside still that I've been wanting to do, like embedding the video so folks that want to go through can actually go through each of them, but we'll see what we can do about that. And something that was mentioned in our private group chat before we go out of here, I don't think doing it individually is worthwhile, so I think it's probably better that we just do it collectively. On behalf of all of us here at Holy Crap the Vlogcast, vive la France.
Vive la France!
Vive la France!
Live France.
Vive la France.
Our hearts are with you guys, as always. Not just because we are democracies ourselves, but because we're human. And as much as we can't directly, we empathize and we sympathize with your pain, and we sincerely, truly hope for it to not have to go through it again. As always, everyone, thank you very much for your time in listening to us. We hope that you've enjoyed and found something worthwhile in our perspectives. By all means, take a swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. You'll be able to get all of the episodes over there on the podcast feed, as was mentioned, and we will see you guys next week. Next week is specifically a Not Safe for Work episode, and I am slowly working towards something for the episodes coming up to 100. It's just a round number, guys. But I'm working on something a little bit different.
But it's a 3-digit round number.
But it's a
It'll be
3-digit
the apocalypse.
It's the fact that we made it that far.
Yeah.
It's a matter of that we made it that far, and we've got a lot to go for that. But in any case. Oh, and right before I forget, for those of you that were unaware of it or missed out on the previous episode, please swing back for previous episode where we spoke with Callie Wright. If you are in the LGBTQI community, please check out gaytheistmanifesto.com. The previous episode she was on with us. Callie Wright is a love, and I don't use that word loosely ever.
Even if you're not in the community.
If you are a supporter of, yes, I was about to get that one. If you are going to be alone this particular Thanksgiving, she's going to be doing a 2-hour live broadcast, and you don't have to be alone. Just always remember, it's okay to be lonely. Don't ever think that you're alone. And of course, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And my wife, after 10 years, I'm still in love. Matane Fujin. I love you and I miss you. Dream of me. Until next week, and the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.